Welcome to She Moves Bravely, a podcast dedicated to empowering women through stories of resilience, courage, and success. I'm your host, Shantae Dent. Today, I have the honor of introducing you to a woman who moves bravely. Her name is Suhaiba Neill. Suhaiba, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Well, as I do with all of my amazing guests, women who are moving bravely, I'm going to pass the baton to you, Suhaiba. And I would love for you to introduce yourself to our audience and share your story. What have you overcome?
So the most recent answer, my story is really kind of multifaceted at this point, was kind of overcoming fear and a little bit of imposter syndrome. So the backstory is I am one of four, but the only girl, grew up with all brothers, worked in all male-dominated industries my entire career to date. So about 25 years now in three different industries: men's college basketball, the NBA, and then now in the family business, which is residential painting. So all male dominated industries. And I just released a book a couple months ago called Like a Girl, and it's 22 leadership lessons for women on the rise. So the first fear was having the courage to put it out there and share it with the world. I tease I've been probably a writer my whole life. I come from a long line of writers. I love to write, but sharing what you've written with the world can be a little scary. Is it good enough? Is it, worthy? And so is the most recent thing that I was brave about and overcame. And on the other side of it, have gotten really great feedback and also met some really incredible women, which is a nice change of pace after, like I said, 25 years in male dominated spaces.
Yeah. That is challenging for a lot of women, and we don't have to repeat what we know to be in historic factors, but it is the truth. It's the reality of a lot of women. I commend you for your bravery, moving and navigating through male-dominated industries and never giving up. And I am extracting a title of one of your chapters in your book. I would love for you to elaborate and just to repeat, we'll include the links in our notes, but like a girl, 22 leadership lessons for women on the rise. Chapter 5, lesson 5, never give up. Suhaiba, give us a sneak peek of what we can find in that chapter, never give up.
That goes back to growing up, like I said, with all brothers from the suburbs of Philadelphia, very, very sports heavy and enthusiastic family that I come from. So I played sports my entire life, and they never treated me like a girl. And that's the whole premise behind the title is every time I did something with the boys, I was told I'm not allowed to do it like a girl. So never giving up is being the littlest one. Usually I'm still pretty tiny. Being younger than I have two older brothers that are 5 and 7 years older than me. So big age gap there, but it didn't stop us from getting out together. And I think never give up is probably a street hockey story, getting banged up a little bit,
Mhm.
playing with all the kids on the block and knowing when to pause and regroup, but get back up and get back out there. It's interesting too, because lately I've been seeing and hearing a lot of stuff about failure and, how actually it is a good thing. And you only fail if you don't get back up and try again. So I don't even like to use the word fail. I like to use the word unsuccessful. So, like, my first attempt at something new may be unsuccessful, but that doesn't mean I've failed and that it's over. You only really, I think, truly fail if you do give up and you don't, like I said, realize that, like I said, in that instance for me, it's playing sports and getting banged up a little bit. I need to sit on the sideline for a second and catch my breath, and then I can go back in the game. So figuring out when you need to pause and how you can regroup so that you can give it another try. That's the never give up lesson, I think. And I've done it, in a million different ways. So yesterday I was having a really like kind of off day and my desk was a mess, which does happen to those of us that are pretty highly organized, which is one of my other gifts. And I took a deep breath and I said, I'm just going to take 10 minutes and clean up. And doing that helped me reset, and I was way more productive for the rest of the day instead of letting something derail you and totally kind of kill your entire day or your entire to-do list or whatever it may be.
I hope the listeners are taking notes here because you have already made powerful statements. And one you alluded to, we hear it often. We hear people talking about failure. And I appreciate how you mentioned that you don't even use that terminology anymore. That word, we're not using that word. And I love it because you replace it with, I didn't succeed. I didn't succeed this time.
Right.
I didn't succeed on that particular project. I don't stop. And here's what I love this and for you, it wasn't an analogy, it was real life situation, playing sports. You said I got banged up, the
Right.
scratches, the scrapes. I had to sit on the sideline, get myself together, rest, take a couple of deep breaths. Don't we all have to do that in life at times? And it's for me, it's an analogy because you don't want to see me playing any sport really. So I might stay on the sideline, but this is your reality: playing sports, growing up with the friends, with the neighborhood friends, with your brothers, realizing that in this game, it might be a little rough out here. And I have to remind myself I might get banged up a little bit, a little, injured on the court, but I will not stop. I will not give up. I'll take a break. I'll take a rest, and then I'll get back in the game. And it does remind me of this title, She Moves Bravely. And knowing that whatever trials come our way, roadblocks or hurdles, we can take one step. And even as you talked about your desk, that's a big deal for a lot of people. I love that you said this is one of my gifts. I stay organized. I like that structure. And so even with that desk that was messy and out of order, that takes a shift in your mindset. Okay, let me pause. Let me take the next step, get this area in order so I can move forward, move the clutter and the chaos so I can move forward. Now, I want to go back because you mentioned the statement that when you were playing the sports in different environments, you were told not to do it like a girl. What went on in your mind? How did you process those words?
So for me, I think growing up, it was always about keeping up with the brothers. And I tease that however you grew up, wherever you grew up, whatever you experienced becomes normal for you, whether it really is normal or not. So for me, normal was being surrounded by back then, boys as a girl. Obviously, in, middle school and high school, I played on the girls' sports teams. But I will say that playing with the guys made me better and a little bit stronger because most of them were bigger and faster. But for me, it was just, I tease that in that movie, The Aristocrats, they say, you're no lady, you're just a sister. Like I wasn't exempt from anything because I was a girl. We shoveled snow. We stacked the firewood when I was younger for, my brothers got in trouble actually once for making me try to cut the grass, and we lived on a house with a hill. And my mother's like, "Are you crazy? She can't do that. Don't do that ever again." But for me, it was always a matter of wanting to keep up. And like I said, being a big sports family, you got all brothers, everything's a competition, so that was me. And I will say I'm a Taurus, so I can be stubborn. And my mom taught me early on, if you turn the stubbornness into determination, then it can be a positive thing instead of a negative thing. Um, so it just became, like I said, it was my world. It was normal for me. And even now, in one of my networking groups, it's still all men and me. And like, I don't even think about it when I walk into the room, and halfway through the meeting, something might come up and I'm like, oh yeah, I am the only woman in here. So it's just, it never really fazed me. It just was. That was my reality. And so, but for them, it goes back to in the very intro of the book. My favorite sport is basketball and shooting free throws. You're not allowed to jump at the free throw line. Only girls jump at the free throw line. So, kind of traditionally in basketball, depending on what kind of shot you're taking, there's a form that you're supposed to follow. And at the free throw line, it's no jumping. Girls, sometimes when we're younger and little, we jump because you need that extra push to help you get the ball up all the way to the rim. But that was, no, you're not allowed to do that. Only girls jump at the free throw line is what I was told. Nothing, I love my brothers to death. And, I think, like I said, it's definitely made me stronger and given me the kind of quiet courage to be the only woman in a room and not fully be intimidated by it. I will say that there are times when, in the book, honestly, my daughter was the final inspiration to finish it. And now that it's out there, I know why this had to be the first book. So she's in college now, and my goal was to help her learn these lessons sooner than I did. So it took me 40 some years to, learn all of these lessons and have them kind of culminate. And I've always been me and pretty confident. But again, as a woman in a male dominated world, sometimes using your voice and finding your voice can be a challenge. And so that was my goal with this, is to make it a little easier for the generations coming up to find their voice and use their voice sooner rather than later. And also, the reason it's women on the rise is I personally believe we're always in a constant state of evolution, or we should be. I want to be better tomorrow than I was today, and I want to be better next year than I was last year, whatever better means for you. So that's women on the rise is for all of us. I think we all have potential still within us, probably, to do something. And that was the goal, was to kind of encourage people to, the first chapter is be fearless, and that's where it really all starts, is you have to be brave enough to, well, actually I was on a webinar yesterday, we were talking about having the courage to be first sometimes is difficult, but if we can continue to do that, and there's, a smaller group of firsts and then a bigger group of firsts, and then soon we're not all firsts anymore, then it makes it easier for those coming behind us. So that's the ultimate goal.
This is incredible when I hear you talk about your why. Uh, your daughter, you said that she pretty much sealed the deal. You wanted to have a resource that was available for her, and clearly this will be an incredible resource for women who are experiencing that same struggle. And I would encourage our listeners to find your why. That's an essential part of the equation. And when we can identify our why, typically that's what leads us to that brave step, that brave move to do those hard things. What would you tell a woman who is currently in a position where you once were? Because what I hear is, even though you grew up in this environment with your brothers on that basketball court, so you were accustomed to some of these tendencies, accustomed to being the only female, yet there was still a struggle. I would love for you to share with that woman who's right there where you were. What can you share with her to encourage her to not retreat, sit on the sidelines if necessary, but don't give up? What would you say to her?
I think, and I tease that I'm absolutely blessed with the mother that I was gifted. So, and I talk about a little bit in the book. My mom is black, my dad is white, so I have this, very strong black woman who raised me, and she always said to me, whenever I had a big idea or a dream or a goal, whatever it was, what do we need to do to make it happen? And so I would say finding that one or two people that can be your cheerleaders. I also have a good girlfriend who I met actually through the painting industry years ago, and she's no longer in the industry, but we're still really good friends and close and stay connected. And she's cheering me on, from the sidelines. And so I think having one or two people in your corner, because you will hit those moments where you're like, oh, do I really want to push through this, So for me, with the book, I finished writing it, and then I had some pre-readers read it, and one of them is a good friend of my parents who PhD in early childhood education, 30 plus years of experience working in the schools around the Philly area, read it, told me it was great, told me it needed to be in the world, and I still was, I don't know if I'm really sure. So you have to have some people in your corner that, and actually, there is a chapter in the book about this too. When someone else sees something in you that you don't quite see yet, or maybe don't fully believe yet, which is still my case in some instances, believe them. So I think a lot of times, and like you said, if you don't know what your gift is, ask somebody really close to you and they'll tell you. So it took me 42 years to realize that systems and processes and productivity was my gift, because just it came naturally to me. It didn't occur to me that everybody's brain didn't work that way. And I had no intention of launching my consulting business. And a friend in the industry was like, yeah, no, you need to share that with the rest of the world. You can't keep that to yourself. So having a few people in your life and in your corner that know you well and that you trust to tell you the truth is really helpful in pushing through with the book. And I didn't, again, I wasn't, it wasn't a failure. I have a really good friend whose daughter had just turned 1, and I was at a conference with him, and we were writing down our action plan at the end of the conference, and one was to finish my book. And so he wrote down this name of a book he was reading. I'm like, no, no, this is my book, the book that I'm actually writing. And he's like, okay, so when is it going to be done? And I said, all right, we're going to shoot for next July because that's when his daughter's birthday is. I said, she'll be 2. My goal is to, that'll be her second birthday present. And it kept me on track. The book came out in October. Funnily enough, the book birthday is the same as my daughter's birthday. So that was not an accident. I think that was intentional somewhere in the alignment of the universe. But like I said, having the original July deadline helped me stay on track through the ups and downs. And like I said, questioning, is it really ready? I teased that at the very end. I had read it back to back to back like 4 times to make sure that, I caught all the issues and any little edits, the final edits that needed to be made. And then I'm like, okay, now I just want to rewrite the whole thing because I had read it too many times. But like I said, again, knowing that, hey, I promised him this book, for his daughter, and my daughter deserves it, and all the daughters and women deserve it. And having, like I said, a few people in my corner that said, no, this is ready, this is good, you need to go, you need to jump, is really, really crucial, I think, in getting through, again, that fear and that little bit of hesitation sometimes that we run into right before we reach the finish line. You're like, is it really good enough? Am I really ready for this? And that's where having that support system makes a big difference.
Mm, it does. Thank you for your transparency. There's a pressure to appear as if we have it together, as if we don't need anyone in our corner, and we go hard and strong and aggressive to prove a point. And what you're saying is opposite. And I agree because we need people in our corners. And even in this world of independency, there's a great need for us to not go through life alone. You need someone in your corner, someone who's rooting for you, someone who will point out those areas where you need to improve, and someone who's going to say, you got this, you could do this. And I like it because you're basically talking about even that final push. You're like almost there. You're right at the edge, but you're a little hesitant. You might sway back and forth. Like, I know I need to take this leap, but wait. And then you have that person in your corner who's saying, you got this, you can do this. You were born for this. You were made for this. I hope you all are listening. And if you're that woman who's ready to move bravely, but you're a little hesitant, you might feel like you are alone. Reach out, find an accountability partner, a coach, a friend, someone in your personal or your professional environments who will encourage you along the way and help you reach those goals, challenge you in those areas that you need to be challenged in.
I tease that I wrote this book for women and smart men. So one of the other things that we really do need is we need men to read this and understand what the shift in perspective means, And so one of the things that I originally studied was writing for children. And so when you write for children, books are supposed to be mirrors. You're supposed to be able to see yourself in them. They're also supposed to be windows so you can see into someone else's world. And then I think they added the sliding door where maybe you step into another world for a minute and then you can step back. So I think um, encouraging all the men out there and all the men in your life and reminding them that we need your support as well in order for this to really change. And we talked about at the beginning that as preparing talks and things to go along with the book, seeing the stats that are still out there on women in leadership, it's not anywhere near where it should be. But this is what it's going to take to make the change, is women finding our voices and standing up a little bit more, men realizing and supporting the fact that we're just as capable, if not more so, depending on the role and the position in the organization to lead, and having our back as well. So like there's a chapter in the book about someone's always kind of watching. And for me, it was my oldest brother, who I would have never thought of because he's the oldest. My little brother looked up to me his whole life, and he was my little buddy and tag along. I still call him my little brother, even though he's in his 40s now as well. But there are people having both men and women support you in your journey is really important. And so March, and I will have info probably on my website at some point. I don't have it all yet. There's a virtual summit that I'm participating in called The Wisdom of 21 Women, which is really cool and sharing information. And there'll be, like I said, 21 of us sharing our tips and insights on what we've learned through our life to date. And then I'm doing another hybrid where it's going to be in person and virtual called the Be More Conference, and it's all about women, and the group is actually called Uprising, so it's other women empowering each other. And that was one of the really cool happy accidents of this book is all of the women I've met in the last few months who there was a time in my life when, unfortunately, I was in some positions where the women that worked in the same industry in the same office as me were thinking it was competition. And now I'm at the point where it's all about collaboration.
Yeah.
And if I win, that doesn't mean you can't win too. And my goal with all of my endeavors is to pay it forward as much as I can, and like it'll come back around eventually. I'm not worried about that right now. So those are two things where I'll be speaking about leadership specifically. And like I said, finding that courage to identify your gift. And then, like I said, for me, I'm actually introverted. And there is a chapter about getting over your fear of public speaking because I could not stand public speaking, when I started 10 years ago. But I also realized that that's where I need to be because my gift isn't for me, it's for the world. So once you determine what it is, now it's my obligation to share it. And so I have to get over that fear and get up on stage and, share my story so that I can help, hopefully, more than one person, but as a writer, I was taught you reach one reader at a time. So one reader at a time is the goal, one woman at a time, one smart man at a time.
One smart man at a time.
Um, to just, for me, it's really all about being the most authentic version of you
Yeah.
possible. And as a woman in a man's world, sometimes everything kind of gets put on you as to what the expectations are, as opposed to you building all of that for yourself. So that's the ultimate goal is to be my authentic self
Yes.
in all scenarios and situations and encourage and empower other people to do the same.
Yeah. What a healthy mindset, because I love what you talked about the power of collaboration. And, it is important that we shed light in that area where, unfortunately, there can be various levels of intimidation when it comes to working with other women. And what another game changing message, empowering message to encourage women to collaborate and not compete. And let's go ahead and circle back around. We won't overlook the statement of encouraging men to jump on the bandwagon, to order the book, read the book, share the book, because it's a message. The more individuals know about not just women's role in the home, but in the work environment as well, we can, I believe, create a more well rounded universe, well rounded environments where we can appreciate and acknowledge individual strengths and not categorize it. It's a strength because you're a woman, it's a strength because you're a male. This is a role destined for you because you are a woman. How about if you are equipped to fulfill this role? Let's get you on board. We're not going to make it contingent upon you being a male or a female or elevate you simply because you are a male or a female. We're all going to show up, as you mentioned, just being the best version of ourselves and collaborate. So that we can all win and encourage one another, along the way. I'm so grateful Suhaiba, for you sharing your story, your journey, and how it all weaves together, how you are working with other women, so much empowerment here, and including the men. I think sometimes, I know, I see it. Sometimes we will encourage women's empowerment. We will encourage women to continue to go further and reach higher heights. But unfortunately, when it's not done in the right way, we open the door to more conflict, to more discomfort, to more division and separation, and to open that door and invite the men to the table. Let's talk about this together. Let's learn about this together. I believe that's a healthy way to approach the matter. And again, get everyone involved, everyone on the same page, get everyone on board, and continue to empower. Now, would love for you, Sue Haiba, to share with the audience how they can connect with you, your website, and we'll ensure to include this information in our show notes as well.
So right now the book is available in paperback and as an ebook. You can find it on Amazon or you can find it on my website and go direct to the publisher. I think the shipping's the same either way, so it's just a matter of preference, what's easiest for you. My website for the consulting is actually thefullcirclebusiness.net, and there is a dedicated page there to Like a Girl, which you'll find in the navigation bar, and there's some additional resources as well. And I am, like I said, working on some, just takes a little time, some more content and some more programming to build on helping women in general, but everybody that's working on leadership development. So there will be more to come in the months ahead. And whatever social media platform you're on, I'm probably on it too. So you can find me there and connect. And I always tease people, I'm always one message or email away if you have a question or you want to, chat quickly. I'm always available if you just reach out and we can set something up. Happy to, my favorite thing to be is helpful. So I'm
Yes.
happy to help where I can.
Well, then that's what we love about you. So here it is, the book, Like a Girl, 22 Leadership Lessons for Women on the Rise. Suhaiba Neill, thank you for joining us today. We wish you continued success, and please do connect with Suhaiba. Take advantage of the book, the golden nuggets in the book, the consulting. Follow Suhaiba on social media, and I believe you will experience deeper levels of empowerment as you continue your personal journey of moving bravely. Thank you again for being with us today, Suhaiba.
Thank you again for letting me share my story.